somebody watches it later. This is a trapezoid. Did I give you the formula for a trapezoid? I don't think so. I don't think I did. It can be done using Pythagorean theorem, but it's a lot quicker if you know the formula for a trapezoid. So I think I'm going to add it to our notes today instead of on this handout. I'll do both. How's that? So if you have a trapezoid like this, right? One of the, like this side is always parallel to this side, okay? So we call one of them A, we call the other one B, and the other one is the height. So the area of a trapezoid is going to be A plus B times the height divided by 2. I would add that to my study sheet like right now, just in case. So this goes with that example, so later on you can give that a try. I said I wasn't going to do a trapezoid, but then I thought, wait a minute, it's a lot easier than using the Pythagorean theorem, right? Otherwise, you'd have to cut this into a rectangle and a triangle and do the Pythagorean theorem, all that. If this, in this case, this would be A and this would be B. Notice that it's the lines that run alongside each other that are the A and B. Okay. You could also have a trapezoid like this. Right, or that it's still A, B, and the height is still going across like that. Okay, so it works. Okay, works every time. Keep handing it in, okay, if you're okay. So today we're going to talk about manipulating formulas. Okay, and we're going to do a few examples, and then I'm going to hand it over to you again. I'm just going to make a note for myself next time to just add trapezoid right away. You might still need to use the Pythagorean theorem for perimeter if that's asked of you, right? Yeah. Here it is, Arabelle. A plus B times H divided by 2. I will put it back in the notes anyways, Arabelle. In this lesson, we will review the basics of algebra. Sometimes a scary word, but it's really just basic rules that always keep the equation true, all right? We will be given an area and one other dimension and be asked to find another unknown. Note the circle only has one dimension needed to determine the area. So the circle is kind of like unique in that way. I can just give you the area and ask you for the radius, for the diameter, or circumference even for that matter, as you will see. And what we're doing today can also be applied back to chapter 1 and 2, right? When we found the gross pay is, wage times hours worked. It's the same thing. It's a formula, and you can manipulate it to find something else you need to find out. Okay. So the first example, it says a rectangle has an area of 168.59 squared yards and a length of 37.81 yards. Determine the width. We just wrote an AC, and I did not stress the fact that units are extremely important, right? So area is always in squared units, and everything else is just in regular units and linear units, okay? Basically to the power of 1. So I'll show you, I know I gave you formulas for all of them, but I will show you how to manipulate, how to actually work with them, okay? Still need some more students to upload the AC. I know sometimes it takes a little longer, so just letting you know. Okay. Here we go. So it's a rectangle, so we know that the area of a rectangle is length times width. Okay, dot is used for times in math as well. You can do the X, you can do the bracket, you name it. Okay. Out of this, right? So start with formula. Okay. And then substitute known values. Okay. So we start with the formula, then we will substitute, meaning sometimes we call it, we plug in, right? We plug in the values that we know. And that's what we're going to do next. So we know the area, this is area, and this is our length. Okay, so area is given, length is given. So we're just going to say, okay, instead of A, we're going to plug in or substitute in the value for it. We know that this is 37.81 times width, like that. So in order for us to find width, right, we want it to be completely isolated. Like for example, here A is completely isolated. So whenever we just multiply length and width, we will get what the area is. Same thing needs to happen here. What we're going to do here is I'm going to use a different color. When you divide something, like 37.81 times something else, to get rid of the number that's multiplying, we need to divide by that same value. But you can't just do it to this side of the equal sign, you need to do it to both sides. I know you've heard this already many times, but if you don't do it to both sides, you're actually changing the scale, right? It's no longer equal because you only applied a change to the left side or right side. Now we're going to cancel out, right? So we will say divide by value in front of unknown. So this is always like, right, this, then this, okay? And now we can cancel this because if you say 37.81 times W and then divide it by that same number, it's like nothing ever happened. So we can just do this. So on this side of the equation, you have W. On the other side of the equation, you have whatever you get when you divide those two. Which is 4.46. When I divide those two, I get this. And that rounds to 4.46. And we are in yards. So we just say that. I know we're not used to having the number first, but the width is essentially 4.46 yards. Okay. And I will just tell you here formulas, right? Essentially, if you want to find the length, you just go area divided by width. Or if you want to find the width, you would just go area divided by length. That's for a rectangle. That's basically what happened here. Watch, we took the area and we divided it by the length. Right? That's how we found the width. A triangle has a base of 24.5 inches and an area of 1754.38 squared inches. What is the height? This one is harder, so we're going to slowly step it up a bit. So it's area of a triangle that we start with. We start with a formula, which is base times height divided by 2. Okay, so we know the area is here. We know that this is our base. So we're just going to substitute. The area is 1754.38. And on this side, we have 24.5 times height divided by 2. The 2 comes from the formula. There's nothing you can do. So you slowly will get h all on its own. You want to isolate it, right? What is 2 doing to the whole thing? You need to deal with that first. What's 2 doing to this whole thing? And eventually h. It is dividing. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to do this. Use a different color maybe to help. We're going to multiply this whole thing by 2. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. How did you determine it has to be multiplied by 2? Because of this. Okay? So then you cancel out these 2 here. So no math really happens here, just cancellations happening here. Here the math happens, okay? So let's write our line down cleaned up now. Because the 2 is gone, let's multiply this. 2 times 1754.38 is 3,508.76. And this should remind you of what we had at the very beginning. Let me just scroll down. This was just what I call a one-liner. You now just have a one-liner. So to get rid of the 24.5, you divide both sides by 24.5. Getting rid of these 2 here. And h is over here, and let's divide that. And we get 143.21. And what units are we in? We're inches. Inches. That's the height. Okay. So I will tell you what the formulas are. If you want to find the base, you will always have to go 2 times the area divided by the height. Or to find the height, you'll always have to go 2 times area divided by base. I know I gave you these. I'm just not sure if this says or here. Okay. So we'll do one more, the circle. So this is the short version of what we did here. And by the way, you basically do this every time. Okay. You will have to multiply both sides by 2. So you're basically on this side, watch, you're multiplying area by 2, right? And then your next step is to divide by, in this case, the base, right? You're dividing your area that you multiply by 2 divided by its base to get that. One more and then we're done for today. A circle has an area of 715.23 square feet. Calculate the radius, and B, calculate the circumference. Last thing we're doing, where we go. Calculate the radius. So we know the area. So to start with A, we know that the area of a circle is pi times radius squared. I just spread it out a little bit. Okay. We know that this is the area of the circle. So we substitute that in. 715.23 times pi times radius squared. What is pi? Pi is just a number. So we're going to get rid of it, dividing both sides by pi, canceling that out. You're left with r squared, and this is 715. I actually usually don't like to divide it at this point, but we will. So let's go 715.23 divided by pi. You get, and I'm going to use 4 decimals, okay, 227.6648. And what do we do when something is squared? I know you know that from using the Pythagorean theorem. We're going to square root this side. Oop, I should have used a different color. My bad. Square root this side and square root this side. Why are we doing that? Because a square root cancels out with a power of 2. That's why we're doing that. And then you just take the square root of that side and you get 15.09. And what are we in? We're in feet. So that's the radius of the circle. B, what would be the circumference? Now that we know the radius, we know that the circumference is 2 pi r. So it's 2 pi 15.09. Notice that we can use the rounded version because this is a B part of it. We get 94.81 feet. Formulas. Radius is always the square root of area divided by pi. Simple as that. Or radius is also, if you were to given the circumference, it'd be circumference divided by 2 times pi. And I will give you the worksheet tomorrow. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for following along.